station.
Bonus Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Keyword coming up in just a little bit. 10 of those keywords, and to learn more, head to KFAN.com.
KFAN text line. And I did not know this, so I appreciate it. 64686 Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. Just an FYI, the seeds in jalapeno peppers and other peppers have nothing to do with how hot they are. The intense heat caused by a compound called capsaicin is concentrated in a white, spongy membrane, or placenta, inside the pepper, which holds the seeds. While seeds may seem hot, they are only coated in capsaicin from contact with this membrane. There you go. I learned something today. I want to learn more from Paul Charchian out in Utah.
Eating placenta all these years.
Yeah, I think that's a thing, Charch.
That's not cool.
Eating placenta.
No, I was under the impression I had never eaten placenta. It was offered to me once in high school by a very oddball science teacher, and I think all the science teachers are generally a little off compared to every other possible area of study. And
so I'm picturing like a dark alley and somebody in just like a leather jacket with like the collar turned up and just this shadowy figure saying, "Hey, come over here." And a young Paul Charchian is offered placenta for the first time.
Here's how it went down. I believe this is 10th grade, 9th grade, Eden Prairie High School.
Okay.
Science teacher was out on maternity leave, came back with the placenta, fried it in like bread, like a breading or some kind of coating, fried it and offered it to the class. I was not among those who elected to eat the science teacher's placenta.
Yeah, I probably would have. I was curious and rudderless and, emotionally immature. I mean, there were just so many things that led me down to a path of eating placenta in high school.
Eating placenta. Well, now in retrospect, at the time you don't know, this will be my only chance to eat placenta.
Right.
Maybe I should do it. I had, maybe I should have, because that was a missed opportunity. I thought maybe I'd have other opportunities, like this was normal, because you don't know what's normal at that age and what isn't.
True. Yeah.
It turns out that's highly abnormal.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it weighs on your mind. I'm not a person. I mean, you can't hang on to regret. Maybe that's one of yours. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Would prefer that Sam Darnold was leading the Vikings to the Super Bowl, and honestly, I think there is a non-zero chance that would have happened, considering how good the Vikings defense played. Second half of the season was just lights out, and considering how well Sam Darnold played, it's not a high percentage. Maybe it's only 5%, 10% chance, but there was a real chance that had the Vikings not made the mistake, and when I was in last Monday, I called this out in not very specific terms. It was a mistake not to sign Sam Darnold. I don't think anybody reasonable can call it anything else. If the Vikings had not made that mistake and Sam Darnold was the quarterback for the Vikings, there's a tangible chance the Vikings would be in the Super Bowl right now.
Well, is there any aspect, I mean, we're undoing ripple effects of all things? Do we get Ryan Kelly, or do we still have Garrett Bradbury? All the potential financial implications, because I think even if Sam's on this team, I think about the O-line injuries, and I think about the discombobulation of certain aspects of it where I can't get there mentally, Charch. I've gotten over the hump to the fact, really, I'm just excited for this opportunity he has, and I think they're going to hoist the Lombardi on Sunday. I do too. But to that end, that leads me to go back in time a week where I'm doing the feast, filling in for PA, and it's about 11:40 a little Friday late morning news dump that Kwesi's been relieved of his duties. And the timing of it, I mean, where was your head at kind of through the weekend? And now, again, a week removed, a chance to really soak into some of the reporting and things. Like, where have you gone mentally with how they handled Kwesi and just kind of the next steps forward? I guess we're all excited for Rob Brzezinski, but what do you think?
Yeah. So first, and I feel like this show does a very good job of saying this when these things happen every year. We don't cheer for people to lose their jobs.
Right.
And, we're not going to say we're glad that Kwesi got fired. I thought Kwesi was extremely good and generous with his time with the media. I think he was a pretty straight shooter. And I know interpersonally really like Kwesi. But there were a lot of things that really damaged his ability to stay on as general manager. The obvious one, of course, was the drafts. And at the end of the day, if you got to get one thing right as general manager, you have to be able to draft great players, get them on rookie contracts, build your own young, great talent base. And this past season, the Vikings had the league's lowest rate of plays with its own drafted players, just 12%.
Yeah.
Based on based on what we know right now, if we go back through Kwesi's drafts, there's like zero major hits. We got a couple of starter level guys and a couple of replacement, just like a replacement level guys.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, just so many duds. And it's hard to know why, I can't tell you exactly why the Vikings misfired so much. I just know that they did. And I think that was number one on the things that damaged Kwesi, his ability to stay. I think the second was, I think the Wilfs look at this roster. Vikings had the third oldest starting roster. And you look at the talent pipeline of young talent, and there just isn't a lot there. I think there's Dallas Turner as a young, potentially very talented player. But I don't know that is there anybody else that's like, a young, talented player that you hope you can build around for the future? And I didn't feel like there was a lot of those, Nordo.
Yeah, no, so first of all, totally lockstep. Now, a week through this, and I'm thinking, again, very excited for Rob Brzezinski and what this whole thing looks like moving forward, and certainly step into the unknown. And what kind of decisions can he make in this spot? Are there, certain off limits bit? Are there a governor? Is there a governor in terms of how he can operate in the next months leading through the draft? The one thing though that pops in my head is he's fired on Friday, and you see the report. And again, everything you said is accurate, but I kind of felt like subsequent reporting and kind of the way things were framed up, it's as if letting Kwesi go was the solution to all the problems. A GM has to hit on a quarterback. And with everything inside me, there's no way I can ever believe that Kwesi made some grand quarterback decision in a vacuum without the former coach of the year and the guy with the fresh, hot extension and Kevin O'Connell being a part of that discussion. And then
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but have you seen that at all where it kind of feels a little bit like, well, Kwesi's gone. All right, we're good now. You know what I mean?
No, I haven't seen any of that. I have not seen anybody suggest that firing Kwesi automatically makes this team better. I think, especially given that we don't even know who the next GM is going to be, whether it's going to be Rob Brzezinski or if it's going to be somebody else. I heard. It was you and Greenway talking about George Payton. I think George Payton would be a great selection, and I would love that. He was beloved in this front office when he was here. A lot of the same people that loved him then are still in the organization. There would be a big move for him. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Vikings might actually have to trade to get George Payton. That's possible. With the quarterback thing, I think it comes down to this, Nordo. When Kwesi came in, he had an older Kirk Cousins. Kirk played well at first, then of course had the Achilles injury.
Yep.
Kwesi made the correct decision to not sign Kirk. When in doing that, and even before the Achilles, one of the key things he had to do was get the next franchise quarterback. And if I said you have 4 years to get the replacement, the young replacement for Kirk Cousins, so this team can maintain stability at quarterback, which they did with Kirk. They had 6 years of stable play with Kirk. You've got 4 years to get it right. You have all the drafts to get it right. You've got all the offseason free agency to get it right, whatever it takes to get the next guy up. And if you get to the end of 4 years and you don't have that solution in place, which is not to say J.J. McCarthy can't be that guy, but he's not right now. Yep. Didn't look like he was that guy this year. So, we'll leave that window open to crack. Then that's another, we mentioned the poor drafting. We mentioned the aging roster, not going 4 seasons and not putting the team in a position where it's got a next young promising quarterback was a damaging blow for Kwesi.
Yeah.
And KOC may carry a lot of that blame, and we probably won't know for years exactly where that goes. For all we know, Kwesi wanted to sign Sam Darnold and KOC didn't. I mean, it might be that binary, black and white. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be. And just seeing reporting on potential tensions that may or may not have existed, and just the way that it's been framed up, though, kind of the idea that this move has had to be made. And you're right. We don't root for people to lose their jobs. I felt like this was a move that probably had to be made. My point in going back to move forward then, though, is moving Kwesi out of the mix. It doesn't change if there's a mindset or a philosophy of collaboration. We've heard that word innumerable times over the last 3-4 years. Kind of the idea, scouting staff still there, the coaching staff, the guys that are, the Kevin O'Connells, the Brian Flores that are identifying talent. When we talk about these drafts that have been dreadful and the lack of fruit from them, everybody but Kwesi effectively that had something to do with those drafts is still there, which leads me to that road that this still is a hot button situation where dramatic improvements have to be made. And there's part of this Charch where I'm thinking this is almost kind of like a warning shot, or just letting everybody else know that this has been terrible and it's got to be fixed immediately.
Yeah, it does have to be fixed. We're talking about KOC and Kwesi, and we don't know what the relationship was really like. But here's what I think we can safely say. And if the Wilfs undoubtedly talked to Kevin O'Connell about Kwesi and this possible decision.
Yeah.
If Kevin O'Connell had said, absolutely not, you cannot fire Kwesi, he is my guy. We are going down, we are going to succeed or fail together the whole rest of the way. Had KOC pounded the table for Kwesi, he'd still be here. Kevin O'Connell apparently did not do that. And I think it's safe to say that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. Again, from all accounts, just from what I feel like I know, and I'm never in any of these rooms, so I'm an outsider. 99% of it.
You should be.
I think they don't even let me in the building anymore. They had a good relationship as far as what I've been led to know. In not contentious in regard of, I want this player, no, I don't like that player, etc. Like those types of disagreements that you would have in any aspect of professional working life. But is it, if you're the owners of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell's opinion means a lot because he's not on the chopping block and he does have to work with whoever's next. But is him getting on a table and pounding it as the owners of the franchise? How much does that, maybe it weighs a ton. Maybe it weighs everything to the point where Kwesi's still here. Yes. There's just a feeling to me with this, again, with the collaboration. It's this cascading of knowledge. We love as many hands in the cooker as we possibly can to get the right answers to every personnel question and every football related question that arises in the building. There's this, it feels like it's a shot across the bow. Like it's kind of, Kwesi is the guy that we're talking about leaving, but this is a statement to Kevin O'Connell. This is a statement, even to Rob and everybody in that building that this has been awful. And we did spend the most money, in the NFL a year ago trying to make this thing right. We did have a guy, and I don't think that Sam Darnold going to the Super Bowl was like some sort of emotional final straw. But we did have a guy in the building that looked pretty damn good under center, and now this kid's floundering. It just feels like it's a shot across the bow a little bit. Like, Kwesi's taken the big L here professionally, but everyone else needs to be on hot seat watch. Does that make any sense?
Yep, makes a ton of sense. And what'll be fascinating, Nordo? To exactly that point. They let Rob Brzezinski run this ship for one more year. Because if KOC really is in a spot where 1 year from now he could be fired, if the Vikings, if JJ McCarthy doesn't work out, if things go badly, Vikings were mathematically eliminated in roughly Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah.
Even though they ended up winning all those games down the stretch and only ended up one game out of a playoff spot. If things go badly next year, they're not locked in to another general manager, and they could bring in a new general manager and head coach at the same time. If they let Brzezinski play this out for a year, that may be exactly why they're doing it, because they feel like KOC's on a 1 year clock and they're going to reevaluate at this time next season.
Well, that would be, that means so many things continue to go wrong on this one that leads us there, though, doesn't it?
God, let's hope not.
I don't want that.
Yeah, well, it does, but but there are warning signs for next year. Your warning signs are our cap situation, which is also something that I think didn't help Kwesi very much. Vikings, of course, 32nd in cap space right now. They're $40 million over the cap. And yes, people that are greater cap minds than me have said, well, the Vikings can mitigate a lot of that. They can cut Jonathan Allen. They can cut Javon Hargrave. They can cut TJ Hawkinson. They can restructure a bunch of deals. To which I say, all that does, you got to go through all that, right? So we got to cut all those players, some of them who never should have been signed. Ryan Kelly's probably in there too.
Yeah.
Some of them never should have been signed to begin with. And then you have to when you're restructuring deals, you are pushing out that cap money. You're pushing out, you're getting cap relief today for paying tomorrow. And that's not always what you want to do either. So for me, and even if you do all that, by the way, all that does is get you back to under the cap. Other teams have to do a lot less to get under the cap. Vikings got to find $40 million. All it does is get you to parity with the rest of the league if you go through all those gyrations.
Yeah.
So, you look at that, you look at all the unknowns with McCarthy, you look at an aging roster, and that's where your warning signs for 2026 are. And the Wilfs may have very well weighed all of that and then said, you know what, we're taking this 1 year at a time. There are no guarantees. As much as we love Kevin O'Connell, there's no guarantees if this thing doesn't get right in 2026.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way that you lay that out. And I got a text message as you were talking there, and you absolutely nailed it. But Greg in Lakeville, for instance, can you change that look in one season? And that's one thing that's been popping in my head over the last few days too. Is so what are the expectations? What is Brzezinski allowed to do? Is he allowed to go leverage the future and trade for Joe Burrow and what that would look like? Or he pulls all those levers like you're mentioning, and still in the end, I look at it less financially and just more basic football depth. You get rid of a bunch of those contracts and such. You cut TJ. We talk about Hargrave, Allen, et cetera. Well, now you got to just go, no big deal. You got to go ace the draft while re-signing the Fabian Moreaus of the world to fill out the roster. It just feels like, what if we get into the summertime or we get through 2026, what is a sign that Brzezinski nailed it? You know what I mean? I mean, he's kind of put into the rat's nest in terms of fixing this and, kind of that deadline of the draft and then some exhaustive GM search. Like, this feels like it's a more than a 2026 conversation just on the front end of it to fix everything.
Yep, I agree. I think that's very well stated. They've got to this team's got to find help. They got to nail this draft to make up for the previous four. There's some gaping personnel holes on this team. Cornerback, center, even linebacker. They're gonna if Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave are gone, those are guys that will need replacements. There's a lot. Oh, Harrison Smith's got to be replaced. I mean, they need to they got to have a fantastic draft. And, again, we don't know. Only Kwesi's gone, right? No, but Ryan Grigson is still there. As far as we know, all the rest of the mechanics and the people that led to the Vikings to have these 4 underperforming drafts, other than Kwesi, I think they're all still there.
Yes.
Can those people do better? Can they nail this draft? This is an incredibly important draft. They all feel important. You feel like with all the things we just talked about, the Vikings roster is on the edge of a knife, and they've got to nail this draft. And then, the offseason free agency as well is going to be really, really pivotal. You got to do better than Hargrave and Allen and Ryan Kelly and, these aging injury prone players that this team has leaned into under Kwesi. They just can't go that route again because it just never seems to work out. Dean Lowry and Marcus Davenport and they got to find a better, different tack than what they've used in the past.
You mentioned we got to pause. This is too heavy. We got to talk about the Super Bowl and have some fun. But I still remember. I got to mention this to PA on Monday. How pumped he was for Dean Lowry. I mean, just some of the obscure names that pop up have worn purple, and of course Dean Lowry spending so many years with the Packers, and just how pumped we were to get Dean Lowry, and just how absolutely unimpactful, and frankly, I didn't even know he was on the team at some point. Just one of the names, man. Wow, Vikings football. But let's pause.
I remember doing a feast middle of that year, the Dean Lowry year, and at some point about halfway through it, his name came up, and Paul just shook his head and he went, "Nah, we got that one wrong." And so he threw in the towel about midseason on Dean Lowry, and he was right to do it.
Oh my goodness. All right. Hey, Charch, I'm going to pause. We're going to come back and let's talk about Sunday games. I know you got some prop bets locked and loaded. I do as well, but just, how this thing's going to play out and we'll have some fun around the corner, my man. That's, Paul Charchian, live from the nuclear bunker somewhere in Utah. And 9 to noon continues on. Alec Lewis of The Athletic's going to be in studio at 11, and then we'll get back into the Vikings and the nuts and bolts of this thing moving forward for sure. But some fun. We got Super Bowl 60 right around the corner in Santa Clara. Seahawks and Patriots. We'll analyze some of that next. But first, bonus bucks via Brett.
Yeah, the fan wants to give you the chance at bonus bucks for the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword this hour is happy. The keyword happy. KFAN.com. Keyword happy. The fan welcomes Black Crowes and Whiskey Myers to Mystic Lake Amphitheater July 28th. Tickets are on sale right now. Get complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Whiskey Myers, you said?
Yes, and the Black Crowes. Tickets just went on sale.
My neighbor's obsessed with Whiskey Myers. He says they're awesome. So I'd have to check out, we'll take him to a show. That's a neighborly thing to do. Paul Charchian joining for a couple more segments here. And let's dig into it, Charch. It's the QB that we had, Sam Darnold, facing the QB that we all wanted in the draft a couple years ago, Drake May. What excites you most about Sunday's game?
Well, plenty. There is, I think the Sam Darnold redemption arc is nothing short of fascinating.
Yeah.
I think for reasons, all of your listeners already know, the angle on this that I find really interesting is how will Mike Vrabel attack the Seahawks? What's the weakness that you go for? Because this is a quote, it is a Dan Barrero quote, team without a weakness.
Yeah.
This is a team that finished in offense. They finished third in yards and first in points scored. On defense, they were first in points allowed. They were sixth in yards allowed. They were a good run offense. They're a good passing offense. They're a good run defense. They're a good pass defense. There's just not obvious angles with which to attack the Seahawks. And I don't know that Mike, as much as an amazing job Mike Vrabel has done, and as good as Drake May is and is going to be, I just don't know where you come up with the spots to attack the Seahawks, Nordo. And that to me is why I think the Seahawks are going to win this thing. They just don't have an obvious weakness in what they do offensively or defensively.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy over the course of this year. I mean, you can look at the two Rams matchups in particular. Matthew Stafford and the Rams, McVay and company. He threw, let me see here, in there. Well, the first one, he struggled, and they get out alive with the win. The Rams do, but Stafford throws for $130. But then in that Thursday night thriller, he goes for 457. He went for 365 in the NFC title game. You can kind of look, okay, well, that means, and I do feel like, and I'll explain maybe when we get to prop bets, I think Diggs is going to have himself a game. But outside of that, Baker got him early in the season. And other than that, it's like 230, the most passing yards they allowed otherwise. So it's ridiculous how evenly matched they are, specifically on the defense, where it's like, okay, just get Travion Henderson and Ramondre moving. Actually, they deal with that pretty well, and they force turnovers. And both Ramondre and Travion have coughed it up a couple of times. Oh, no, we can just get it through the air like Stafford did. Oh, wait, well, you don't have Puka and Stafford. You got Drake and Booty. So it is in some ways a team without a weakness. But do you appreciate in any respect the idea that Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, how much do you weigh into the idea, well, we've been there and done that? You consider that at all?
I do. I think Josh McDaniels is the secret sauce here. I mean, he's got Super Bowl pedigree, obviously. This is not going to be, the moment's not going to be too big for Josh McDaniels. That's for sure. He has guided this offense tremendously this season. And, if you ask me who's got the coaching staff advantage, boy, it's tough, right? So Seattle's got Mike McDonald, who has been fantastic since he got there and a coach of the year candidate this year. They got Clint Kubiak, who's going to be the Raiders head coach as your offensive coordinator. And in New England, they got Mike Vrabel, who I believe last night he did win coach of the year, correct?
Yes.
Am I right about that?
No, he did win coach of the year, yeah.
He did. Yep. Josh McDaniels, and Terrell Williams as a defensive coordinator, really good too, and considered an up and coming guy. So it is just two fantastic coaching staffs. And I don't know if you can, for me, I don't know that I can point to one and go, well, the obvious coaching advantage is here, but I feel like Josh McDaniels is the secret X factor, just given all the experience that he's got and the way he has elevated this Patriots offense as one of the worst last year to one of the best this year. To me, just an amazing job by Josh McDaniels, who otherwise, I struggle to say good things about Josh McDaniels, but I think you have to give him a ton of credit here.
You do. Now, with that said, Seahawks attacking the Patriots offensively, I think Zach Charbonnet being out of the mix, that hurts them now in a single game. Maybe it doesn't, but him with the knee being out of the mix and the way that they mixed and matched Charbonnet with Ken Walker over the course of the season was terrific. And that was, that run game, something we dream of here to help support a young QB. That's what they're doing with Sam. But Sam attacking this secondary, it does feel, and I was talking with an analyst earlier, just kind of a very ball hawkish secondary at times, that there really is an opportunity for Sam. Like we're talking like feasting with some chunk plays potentially, specifically having Jackson Smith and Jigba in there.
Let's go back to Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet.
All right.
And you and I are going to differ on this. Yes, it was a 1-2 punch and a successful one all season long with Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, which they did intentionally because Kenneth Walker breaks down constantly.
Right.
So I believe that it was one of these situations where Mike McDonald and Clint Kubiak said, if we think we're a playoff team, and it became apparent pretty early they were, we need Kenneth Walker to be available and healthy in the playoffs. How do we do that? Well, we're going to put him into basically a 50-50 timeshare with Zach Charbonnet. But here's the difference. Kenneth Walker, at full health, is one of the 5-6 best running backs in the league. He is special, fast, hard to tackle, elusive. He's really good. And I don't think he's widely recognized as sort of, that level of running back. In Parks, he's hurt all the time, and they keep monitoring his work. So then when Charbonnet does go down, Kenneth Walker's been a freaking beast getting all the carries. And, people I think are seeing now just how good he is. And while, again, never wishing injury on anybody, I think opening the door for Kenneth Walker to get a lot of use is ultimately putting the best running back the Seahawks have on the field for almost the entire game. And I believe that's ultimately going to help Seattle's chances. But I should mention this. Patriots run defense is insane. And I don't know that people are fully aware of how great this run defense is. Can I throw some stats at you?
Please do. Yes.
All right. Because this is what I do. This feels right in my wheelhouse. So the Patriots in the offseason made one of the great signings that at the time nobody paid any attention to when they signed defensive tackle Milton Williams. And Milton Williams has played, I believe the number is, we're now up to 15 games this year. He missed about a month where he was hurt in December.
Well, hold on a second.
In the games, Charch. Milton Williams, yes,
didn't pay attention to him. He was $100 million guy, Charch. He was like, he may have been the most expensive free agent, and people were paying attention. We wanted him. I want Milton Williams on this team because he played half the snaps for Philly. And people are wondering, okay, he's going to leave in free agency. Somebody's going to overpay him. And we're not going to get, the classic 48% becomes 70% of snaps and it's going to drop off. It didn't drop off. This guy's an animal, Charch.
He's an absolute animal. I think savvy people like yourself, tracked Milton Williams. I think if we lined up 100 NFL fans and said, who does Milton Williams play for? Even right now, with the Super Bowl looming just 3 days away, I believe you would be 2 days away. I believe we would be sitting at like 2% or 3%. I don't think the average people have any idea who Milton Williams is.
Yeah, fair point.
But
I'm sorry.
Here's what the Patriots, you don't have to apologize. Here's what the Patriots run defense has done in games with Milton Williams. They are allowing 2.9 yards per carry. 2.9. That's so good. The next best team is 3.5 yards per carry. That's the second best team, let alone NFL average. The Patriots were 1.5 yards better than NFL average in run stuffing domination with Milton Williams on the field. And look what it's done in the playoffs. Last game, RJ Harvey, 37 yards on 3.8 yards per carry. The week before that, in the divisional round, Woody Marks against the Patriots, 17 yards on 1 yard per carry. Wild card round, Kamani Vidal, 31 yards on 2.8 yards per carry. No starting running back was able to top 49 yards against New England with Milton Williams on the field. It is, so this Kenneth Walker versus this great Patriots run defense is going to be fascinating and will go a long way towards deciding the winner here.
No, I love the way you break that down. In some ways, you're telling me too. I mean, that is one of the great matchups of the game. Kenneth Walker, okay, I can the beastly nature of him without Charbonnet. I'm underselling that, so that's good to know. But that then leads to Sam, the man who was formerly on the Fan, having to show up with that arm.
Sam's going to have to play a great game. It's going to have to be a lot like the game he just played against the Rams. Which he was phenomenal. You mentioned the numbers, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 69% completion rate. Sam was great in the conference championship. He's going to have to make some big throws here. The other key matchup that involves Sam, and then that maybe you've even talked about, Nardo, it's the Christian Gonzalez versus Jackson Smith and Jigba matchup. Have you discussed this much this week?
Well, just not specifically with that, but kind of, again, the secondary of the Patriots. If there is a weakness on that defense, I would say your ability to get it around the gym on them can be at a high level with what Jackson Smith and Jigba has done in combination, again, with the over-aggressive at times mentality of the Seahawks secondary.
And Christian Gonzalez is the key guy. Now, so when the Patriots, he's their cornerback, for people that don't know, Christian Gonzalez, first rounder a couple of years ago, got hurt early. He's been great since. He gave up 1 passing touchdown this year, including the playoffs. And the opposing passer rating in Christian Gonzalez coverage, fifth best in the league. So he's fantastic. So the way the Patriots, and it's going to get nerdy, so just bear with me, Nardo. The way Patriots deploy Christian Gonzalez is this. If the opponent has a clear, obvious number one receiver, like the Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Gonzalez will shadow that guy. Now, that would be bad for Jackson Smith and Jigba. But here's the secret sauce and what I think they're going to do here. When Cooper Kupp showed up this year, they moved Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had been the 2 prior years, he had been primarily a slot receiver.
Yep.
They kicked him outside and let Cooper Kupp run from the slot primarily. Last year, Jackson Smith and Jigba ran 733 slot routes. This year with Cooper Kupp, it was only 200. But Jackson Smith and Jigba's got all that experience running from the slot. Christian Gonzalez does not play the slot ever. He does not shadow into the slot. So watch the Seahawks and Clint Kubiak deploy Jackson Smith and Jigba from the slot, where they get a fantastic matchup with Marcus Jones, the slot cornerback, who allowed the most touchdowns in slot coverage of any cornerback in the league. That's a primo matchup, and I think they're going to put Jackson Smith and Jigba in the slot for big chunks of this game to avoid Gonzalez and give them a far easier matchup.
Man, I love that. All right, here's what we're going to do. One more pause, Charch. Let's rattle through some props, and along the way, that kind of tells us what we're feeling in this game, and chat a little bit more about Super Bowl 60. So I'm going to put you on hold as they will. That's Paul Charchian from his nuke bunker in Utah. One more segment with Charch before Alec Lewis of The Athletic joins in the 11 o'clock hour. Nordo in for PA on the Fan.
Bonus Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Check our keywords, learn more at KFAN.com.
Speaking of back, Paul Charchian is back for one more segment, and we chat about the Super Bowl, we chat about Vikings, but the real reason that we have Paul Charchian join is for his big thoughts on the NBA trade deadline. And Charch, we didn't get Giannis, we got Ayo Dosunmu, and so he's going to offer some pop as a guard, and excited to see what he can do here once he joins the team, puts on the jersey, and starts playing. But we were texting back and forth. How about Mike Conley coming back? Mike Conley, he gets traded, he gets traded again, he gets released, and it sounds like Mike Conley is going to finish out the season. It was the plan all along. You save a little cash, you get under the apron or whatever the super tax bid is, and Conley returns to the How. What do you think?
Oh, they needed a true one, somebody that can distribute the ball, somebody that can they needed a point guard. And what else were you going to do at this point to find a point guard who could be any better than Mike Conley? And so the move's great. Everybody loves Conley. Personally, we still feel like we know the limitations that he's got at this stage of his career, but I think now it's great to have him back and know that you've got another just set of veteran hands to help you with some ball distribution and play a little bit of defense. So, welcome back. Good to have him back.
Good to have him back. And at this stage of his career, maybe some of his impact and value is kind of off the court, kind of that veteran leadership, steady eyes and steady mind that's in the mix with those Cats. So good to have Mike Conley back. To the Super Bowl, when you send your mini Tolstoy, as we've come to affectionately call it, I noticed you included some Super Bowl props. I have found some of my own, so I'm just going to kind of give you the floor over the next few minutes, and this will kind of tell part of the story of how you see the game laying out. Are there some props you're pumped to put out there into Sunday's game?
Maybe we alternate them. You've got some props ready, too. Yeah. Here's an oddball one for you. Seattle's traded for Rashid Shaheed has been slam dunk great trade right now. Shaheed is on the last year of his deal. I think Shaheed's going to want to stay. The team just brought him to Super Bowl, and he fills such a great need for this team. But we're going to highlight Rashid not as a kick returner, not as a deep ball receiver, but as a rusher, Nordo.
Yeah.
We're going to highlight Seattle wide receiver Rashid Shaheed over 3.5 rushing yards. In some ways, it's just this simple. The Patriots allowed the most wide receiver rushing yards in the entire league, which is an esoteric stat, but the Patriots were worst. And since Rashid Shaheed's trade to Seattle, Shaheed leads all wide receivers in rushing yards. So you could just stop there, but I got to add just a little bit more detail. New England allowed 8 wide receiver rushing yards per game. Shaheed only needs to get to 3.5 rushing yards. The Patriots allowed the second most yards per carry by wide receivers, 9 yards per carry. So this is, if he gets just the one carry, it likely goes 8 or 9 yards on average, and that's way over the 3.5 rushing yards he needs to hit. There's also a bettable angle on Rashid Shaheed's first run will be over 1.5 yards, and I think that's an easy one too.
Yeah.
So I think he gets the one carry here. Patriots saw the 6th most wide receiver rushing attempts, 1 per game. Shaheed was 3rd in rushing attempts by wide receivers, so I think he's going to get that rushing attempt, and he'll go over 3.5 yards.
Well, first of all, I love it. And there's facts, there's statistics, there's some science behind it. I dig that. I usually go a different route when I do Super Bowl props. I want some fun and I want some boom or bust to it. So I'm going to hit you with this. Rashid Shaheed. I actually have one for him. I'm getting 4-1 odds that he has a 30+ yard reception in Sunday's game. Now he has, in total, of course, you mentioned half Saints, half Seahawks, 60 catches this year, including the playoffs, for 738 yards. 210 yards of that, or about 30% of his production, came on 4 total catches of 51, 87, 33, and 39. This is an absolute 4-1 boom or bust. Probably odds are it's a bust, but I'm putting some cash on Rashid Shaheed with a double move, a bite, a deep ball. Can't run Kenneth Walker to save their lives. We're going to stretch it with Rashid Shaheed on Sunday, and I'm going to hit that one. Shaheed he just needs to make one guy miss. That's right. Fine. You hate it.
You catch the ball, somebody misses, now gone. Wherever you are in the field, there are few players in the NFL that can turn a short gain into a long one. And Shaheed's also great with the long bomb, by the way. One of the best deep ball receivers there is because he gets separation. He's so fast. We had mentioned last segment, Patriots have 1 star cornerback, Christian Gonzalez. And it falls off pretty hard after that. If Christian Gonzalez is on Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashid Shaheed's got a path to really very favorable coverage opportunities, and that might be the difference here. You're all over Ramondre. So a few minutes left. Why are you so in on Ramondre? What's piquing your interest in him, Ramondre Stevenson, prop bet wise? Ramondre and Travion Henderson over on receptions. The Seattle's a great defense, as I already discussed, but they have one weird Achilles heel: running back receptions. Ooh. Seattle allowed the most running back receptions during the regular season, and then in the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey was on his way to a massive receiving game before he got hurt, and he had 5 receptions in basically a half last week, or 2 weeks ago, last game. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum combined for 5 receptions, 46 receiving yards, and a touchdown. For Henderson, get this. Seattle gives up so many running back receptions that the number 2 runners are almost always paid. In 18 of 19 Seattle games this year, the opponents have had a second runner get 1 or more reception. Travion Henderson's line is 0.5 receptions. Oh, wow. All you have to do is just get the 1 reception. Yeah. 18 out of 19, Nordo. And so like that. And then also for Ramondre, he's going to get the majority of these receptions probably. But again, this team that gives up 6 running back receptions a game. I like Ramondre to go over 11.5 receiving yards. And here's why. And more crazy esoteric stuff that you only really get on Super Bowl week. Ramondre Stevenson ranks number 1 on targets of at least 12 air yards in the NFL across all running backs. He has the longest average distance of target among all running backs is Ramondre Stevenson. They throw to him downfield. He ranks number 1 on receptions of over 12 air yards, and he ranks number 1 on yards gained on passes of over 12 yards. And again, it's Ramondre over 11.5 receiving yards. So I think he gets some, at least one longer reception, and he can cash in on the over 11.5 longest receiving yards against a team that gives up the most running back receptions in the league.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, you can get him 8-1 on a 30-plus catch. You can get him 3-1 on a 20-plus reception. I like those angles. So once again, you are fact, and I am field, Charch, because here's where I'm at, and then we'll say goodbye. Diggs, Stephon Diggs, as in over/under on receptions 4.5. I just think that's an overall day in this game. I think there's an element here with Diggs where I think he had 5 or 6 100-yard games all season, and the targets have really fluctuated week after week, so you can't really find a trend there. But this is the game where Diggs is available. This is the game where Diggs is always open. And this is the game, I think, where Drake May sees that as his outlet and his safety net. So I'm getting 3-1 on 7 or more catches from Stephon Diggs. I'm also believing that Diggs leads the team in receiving, which leads me down this road. I can get 3-1 on 70-plus receiving yards for Stephon Diggs in this game. And if he eclipses the century mark, I can get 9-1 on Stephon Diggs having a 100-yard game in the Super Bowl. I'm taking a feel-based swing that, win or lose, I think Diggsy is the star of the show for this offense on Sunday, and he's going to get me paid on a few of those props.
To me, it all depends on if Devon Witherspoon is going to shadow him, because the Patriots aren't deep at wide receiver. You alluded to this earlier. They've got Diggs, and then it falls off to like Kayshon Boutte and Mac Hollins. Devon Witherspoon is awesome. And if they decide that they're going to put Witherspoon in a shadow situation on Diggs, I think that's it. I think Diggs is done. But if they don't, then I'm with you on this. So I think there's a high. I think I consider that a high risk, high reward maneuver, and hopefully it'll pay out for you.
You think Witherspoon is talented enough to follow Diggs all over the field? Because the way that you were talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's aging. I mean, it ain't like it used to be, but it can still be pretty good. Diggs can play any spot out there, and you think Witherspoon can trail him the whole way?
Whole way. Witherspoon's awesome. He's Pro Football Focus's second highest graded cornerback. He's one of the best young cornerbacks in the league.
Great young player. For sure.
I think given where Diggs is in his career arc, still coming off the injury, I think if Witherspoon goes on Diggs, it's lights out for Diggs, and the Patriots are going to have to win other ways, like Kayshon Boutte.
Well, this isn't going well. I'm going to lose all my money on these prop bets. My goodness. Okay.
Well, that's only if they do that.
It's over.
They might just, I don't know. They might just play a bunch of zone, have Witherspoon on one side of the field, although he usually plays all over the field. I could be wrong about that. Nick Amanwari, by the way, speaking of that secondary for Seattle.
Yeah.
What a great draft pick he was. We talked about him as a potential Viking.
Yes, we did.
Heading into the draft, as we were talking about all the possible things that Minnesota could do with their draft pick last April. Nick Amanwari, who they're using in the slot and is just obliterating opposing runners on his side of the field. What a great hit he has been for the Seattle front office. That's, while we're talking about the Seattle secondary, we should mention him too.
Well, that just brings us, as we put a cap on this whole thing, Charch, and can't thank you enough for joining, this brings us back around to the beginning when we were talking about Kwesi and our favorite team. If you really want to find yourself on a Friday in a nuclear bunker in Utah, slamming your forehead against your desk, just go on the internet, pull up Vikings draft history and pull up Seahawks draft history. And you see the difference between what John Schneider and that group have done over the last several years and what our favorite team has done, or more importantly, not done in the draft. And maybe that can just be a Super Bowl, just make it a yearly annual tradition. You do this with the Chiefs a few years ago. Do this with the Patriots. It's brutal what we've seen. It's unbelievable what both the Patriots have done. You mentioned Milton, and they had to go maybe a little more free agency, but the drafts, just the overall production of John Schneider and that front office in Seattle, it's a freaking plus. And I think that's why they're going to win on Sunday.
It's a plus. Yep, and let's give a tip of the cap to Minnesota native Trent Kirchner, Fulda, Minnesota, I believe, St. John's graduate. And he is basically second in command in that front office behind John Schneider. He's the vice president of player personnel. And he's done, I think college is his. I think he orients a little more towards college, but the Seahawks have just crushed their drafts, including Gray Zabel. Remember how much we wanted him to find his way to the Vikings? And Seattle wisely ended up taking him in the first round of last year's draft, and he has just been an anchor on that offensive line, every bit as good as we thought he might be. And it's would have been nice had he fallen to the Vikings. I'd like to think we would have taken him there. Well,
they got this undrafted Bison cat there too, Sundell. He might be their starting center. He was nicked up for a while, but he's undrafted. And guess what? We found out yesterday. PA had Steve Hutchinson on the show. No big deal. HOF Hutch has been having some conversations and maybe doing some consulting work. So HOF finding maybe the next great left guard in the NFL. Not that Zabel was a secret, but Hutch certainly maybe had part of that chat when it came to choosing him. So,
why would Hutch do that to us? Why would Hutch do that to us? He hurt the Vikings. Can't do that.
No, unbelievable.
Come on, Hutch, Viking for life. And he was back he was doing with the Seahawks. Remember how acrimonious it was when he left the Seahawks? They were, the poison pill, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't want to find out that Hutch did us dirty like that.
You went to a Super Bowl with him, though. There's no doubt. You are the very best. Thank you for spending an hour with me. Thank you for the props and the stats and the facts. I'm more of a feel guy myself, but we're going to catch up again soon, man. Really appreciate you hanging out today.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you, and I hope we have the opportunity to talk soon, my man. Bye, Nordo. And Brett, great to chat with you behind the scenes as well. Thanks for your help today.
No problem.
That's Paul Charchian from Utah joining us as part of a Friday Feast. Final hour. We're going to have a few short segments with Alec Lewis of The Athletic. That's next on The Fan.